Everybody thinks they know the 90-Day Fiancé universe. The fights, the cheating rumors, the immigration deadlines. But what if I told you the real power in this franchise was never love, it was food? What if the biggest betrayals didn't happen in bedrooms or text messages, but quietly, behind restaurant counters, food trucks, Instagram kitchens, and family recipes that were never really theirs? Because once you start paying attention, something feels off. Why are so many 90-day couples suddenly chefs? Why does every breakup seem to come with a new restaurant announcement? And why does TLC barely talk about the money behind it? This is where the 90-Day Culinary Universe begins. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I know what you're thinking. This sounds dramatic, maybe even a stretch. But stay with me, because by the end of this story, you're going to realize food wasn't just a side hustle for these couples. It was leverage, control, survival, and sometimes, the quiet weapon that destroyed everything. If you've watched this show for years, you've felt it. That moment when a cast member suddenly seems different, more confident, or more bitter. That shift where love stops being the focus and business takes over the conversation. That's not random. That's when food enters the picture. And before we go any further, let me say this. I know a lot of you don't trust TLC edits anymore. I don't either. That's why if you're the kind of viewer who watches with one eye on the screen and the other on Reddit, who rewinds scenes because something didn't sit right, who feels like there's always a missing piece, you're exactly who this story is for. And yeah, if you want more of these deep dives that feel like a late-night phone call with a friend spilling secrets, you might want to stick around here. Because this story starts way before the food photos, before the soft launches, before the grand openings. It starts with desperation. Most 90-day couples don't come together in comfort. They come together under pressure. One person usually has the passport, the money, the stability. The other has hope, talent, culture, and very little power. Food becomes the bridge, a shared language, a promise. I'll cook for you. I'll open something for us. This recipe is my family's legacy. At first, it's romantic. Home-cooked meals in tiny kitchens. Scenes where someone says, "This reminds me of home," and suddenly we're crying over a plate of rice or noodles. TLC frames it as bonding. But behind the scenes, food is becoming currency. Take Annie and David. Fans love them now. Pillow talk favorites. Laughing. Comfortable. But people forget where they started. Broke. Living off friends. Dependent. Annie cooked because she had to. Thai food wasn't just comfort. It was survival. When her cooking classes started, people cheered. Finally, Annie had something of her own. But look closer. Who booked it? Who managed it? Who benefited first? This is where the imbalance creeps in. The immigrant partner brings the skill. The American partner controls the access. The bank account. The paperwork. The branding. And when things go wrong in the relationship, food doesn't just stay food. It becomes a bargaining chip. And that's when the internet started noticing patterns. TikTok clips popped up. Why does every 90-day star start cooking? Reddit threads exploded. Is this TLC's backup plan for them? Twitter, or X, went wild during live episodes. People joked about it at first. Food trucks, restaurants, cooking shows. But then the jokes turned sharp. Why does it always happen after a fight? Why does it always happen right before a breakup? Because here's the part nobody was ready for. Food businesses are clean. They look wholesome. They distract from mess. When a couple is falling apart, a new restaurant announcement changes the narrative. Suddenly it's about hustle, culture, empowerment. Not cheating rumors. Not emotional abuse. Not financial control. And TLC loves that. But the cast, they live inside it. Let's talk about the pressure. Imagine moving to a new country. You can't work yet. You're isolated. Your accent is mocked online. Your relationship is judged weekly by millions. Cooking is the one thing you can do without permission. So you do it. You pour your identity into it. And slowly, your partner realizes, this is profitable. That's where things quietly fall apart. Because once money enters, love gets tested in ways cameras don't capture. Who owns the recipe? Who owns the brand? Who gets paid if the relationship ends? This is where the stories start to diverge. Some couples leaned into it together, smiling through it, but others, you could see the cracks. One partner talking about, our business. The other saying, my cooking. Subtle, but loaded. Fans noticed it with Pedro and Chantel. Dominican food became part of his identity on the show. Family meals, cultural pride. But when the marriage collapsed, suddenly everything they built together became something to divide. Viewers argued online. Was he using her? Was she controlling him? Food scenes replayed differently after the divorce. What once felt warm started to feel strategic. And then there were the moments TLC didn't linger on. The contracts, the managers, the quiet shift from couple to company. I know what you're thinking. Plenty of people start businesses together. That's normal. But this isn't a normal environment. This is reality TV, immigration stress, and public judgment all mixed together. Add food, and suddenly there's something tangible to fight over. This is where the culinary universe expands. Because it's not just one or two couples. It's everywhere. Food trucks announced during seasons. Instagram pages launched mid-drama. Cooking content replacing couple content right after breakups. It started to feel like a pattern. A backup plan. Or maybe, an exit strategy. Fans on Reddit started connecting dots. One post said, notice how food becomes the storyline when the relationship can't carry the season anymore. Another replied, it's because food doesn't talk back. Brutal, but telling. Then came the mid-story twist nobody expected. Some former cast members quietly admitted something off camera. Food businesses weren't always their idea. Producers encouraged it, not forced. Encouraged, because it tested couples in a new way. Because it created stakes beyond love. And because it kept cast members relevant after their season ended. This changes everything. Because now, food isn't just survival or culture. It's content. It's storyline insurance. It's leverage with TLC. And when that realization hit the fandom, the tone shifted. TikTok comments turned suspicious. Why does this feel staged? Why is the American partner always the CEO? Instagram followers started asking uncomfortable questions under smiling food photos. Who owns this? Are you actually getting paid? Sometimes the comments were deleted. Sometimes they weren't. And that silence said a lot. Here's where it gets darker. For some cast members, food became the only thing that kept them in the relationship longer than they should have stayed. Because walking away didn't just mean heartbreak. It meant losing income, losing identity, losing the one thing they built in a country that still didn't fully feel like home. That's a quiet kind of trap. You could see it in their eyes during later seasons. Less affection, more exhaustion, smiles that didn't reach, arguments about money disguised as arguments about menus, locations, staffing. But really, they were fighting over power. And TLC, they filmed the surface, not the roots. This is where the truth finally slipped out. One former cast member, during a casual live, said something that didn't get enough attention. They joked, half joking, if the relationship fails, at least the restaurant survives. People laughed. But listen to that again. That's not romance. That's contingency planning. Food was never just love. It was insurance. And when relationships ended, food often stayed. Or at least, the brand did. Sometimes under one name. Sometimes rebranded. Sometimes quietly sold. Fans would ask, what happened to the restaurant? The answers were vague. We moved on. Different direction. But behind that vagueness were real fights. Legal ones. Emotional ones. Ones we never saw. This is the layer TLC never fully explained. Because showing couples fight over love is entertaining. Showing them fight over ownership, contracts, and immigration leverage. That gets uncomfortable. That breaks the fantasy. And here's the most devastating part. For some viewers, Food was the reason they defended certain cast members for years. They're hardworking. They're building something. But what if that narrative hid exploitation? What if the person cooking wasn't the one controlling the future? That question split the fandom. Twitter threads turned heated. TikTok duets arguing both sides. Some saying, they were given an opportunity. Others saying, they were used. And no one could fully prove either side. Because the truth lives in NDAs, private arguments, and contracts we'll never see. Which brings us to now. The 90-day Culinary Universe isn't slowing down. New seasons, new couples, new kitchens. The cycle continues. And viewers keep watching, partly for the food, partly for the hope, partly for the drama we sense but can't fully touch. So the next time you see a 90-day cast member plating a dish on Instagram, smiling, talking about dreams and culture, ask yourself something uncomfortable. Is this love, or is this leverage? And if the relationship ends tomorrow, who really gets to keep the recipe? That's the question TLC doesn't want you asking. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think food empowered these couples, or trapped them in relationships that should have ended sooner? And when love and money are mixed like this, is there ever a clean winner? Say what you really think. Because this conversation is just getting started.